Greetings, fellow trickers and trickers. Well, look at Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 5, now continues on with Children of Time. Odo, Kieran Reese, and Jadzia Dax sit having breakfast in the mess hall of the USS Defiant. Lieutenant Commander Dax says that she can't wait to sleep in her own bed, remarking on the comfortable bunks on the Defiant. Major Kira says that she could use a visit to the Golian spa. Dax comments that Kira and Shakar should both go, to which Kira says that she and Shakar aren't seeing each other anymore. Odo, who has had feelings for Kira for a long time, asks about the breakup. Kira says that she and Shakar went to the Kenda Shrine of Bajor to ask the prophets if they were meant to walk the same path. Upon hearing that the prophets said no, Dax remarks that Kira makes it sound so cut and dried. Kira responds that people are meant to be together or not. That people are either meant to be together or not. Dax says any relationship can work if the partners really work at it. Odo, still contemplating the ramifications of the conversation, says he has no opinion on the subject and hastily leaves. Kira wonders if he is all right, and Dax reminds her that the subject of relationships has always made Odo uncomfortable. Odo stands inside the mess hall and absorbs what Kira just said. Later, on the bridge of the Defiant, Muxerot and Jinko are being passed around to everyone. Captain Benjamin Sisko declines, saying that he's trying to cut down. Chief Miles O'Brien then begins talking about dollhouse he's making for Molly's birthday, lamenting that even with the microlathe he might not get it done in time. Commander Dax then begins to get some readings on her console. An entry barrier of some kind is encasing the fourth planet of a nearby star system. Major Kira begins scanning and states that there could be life forms on the surface of the planet, but the interference from the entry barrier is making it difficult to be certain. Dax seems more interested, wanting to know how the life forms adapted to the quantum fluctuations in the barrier. While it is an intriguing scientific possibility, O'Brien wants to push off an investigation until the next time they go by this planet. Dax says the interference is intensifying so that in a few weeks, O'Brien will now make it through the barrier. Dax knows everyone wants to go home, but this is the only chance to make a survey. After ordering modifications to the shields, Sisko gives the go-ahead. As the Defiant enters the barrier, the ship starts to shake. Dax tries to adjust the shields, but the shaking gets more violent. Energy begins to arc across the bridge consoles and Major Kira is struck by a discharge. While caught in the energy, it appears that there are two Kiras, slightly out of phase with each other. After a moment, the energy dissipates and the ship is through the barrier. Sisko calls Dr. Julian Bashir to the bridge to check on Kira. O'Brien tells the captain that the inertial dampers are offline and the gyromagnetic stabilizers have depolarized, showing the Defiant in orbit for a few days. Suddenly, Lieutenant Commander Worf says they're being hailed from the surface. Upon scanning the surface, he also reports that there are several settlements on the planet, with approximately 8,000 human inhabitants. Stunned, Sisko answers the hail. On the view screen, a human woman and a trailman welcome them to Gaia, calling Captain Sisko by name. The woman says that they have been expecting them. The man speaks up, saying it is a long story. He invites them to beam down to talk about over some to Jinko, then catches himself. I forgot, you're trying to cut down. Sisko, Dax, Worf, and O'Brien beam down into a cluster of adobe-like buildings surrounded by farmland. Children who are playing a game with the ball stop and stare at the newcomers. The two people made hail introduce themselves as Miranda O'Brien and Yedrin Dax. Sisko asks for an explanation. Miranda tells him that the Seldom was founded by the crew of a survey vessel that crashed on the planet 2 centuries prior. She reveals that the ship that crashed was the USS Defiant. In 2 days, when Captain Sisko tries to leave orbit, Miranda says they will be thrown back 200 years into the past. The people they see now are the crew's descendants. Dun dun dun. Yedrin sees that the Starfleet officers are skeptical and tells Jadzia to scan him. With the tricorder, she finds the Dax symbiote in Yedrin. It was passed on Jadzia's descendants for 3 generations. He also tells her to scan Miranda. Jadzia finds that Miranda's DNA is similar to Miles, making her an O'Brien. Miranda also states that she is also a Tenenbaum, as an Arena Tenenbaum, and entered on the Defiant's engineering crew. Miranda then relates to Miles that they were trapped 200 years in the past without any chance of seeing their family or friends. Yedrin says that Miles was the last to give up hope, but eventually married Rita 10 years after the Defiant crashed. Yedrin still sees doubt on Sisko's face and offers to tell him something that Curzon would know. He begins a story about a dancer on Pelio Station, Cisco cuts him off as both Yedrin and Jadzia smile knowingly. A young boy named Gabriel asks Worf if he's the son of Moog, and if he can kill someone just by looking at them. Worf responds, "Only when I am angry." The boy's eyes get wide and he runs off. Random then directs them to a nearby structure. As they enter, two girls are sitting at a table near a view screen salvaged from the bridge of the Defiant. The girls are doing schoolwork with help of the image of Quark. The actor says that Jadzia designed the educational program, saying that Quark would make a great math teacher. Jadzia comments on one of the girls' spots. Lisa says that most people don't have them as most of their ancestors were human. She says that they make her special. The other girl, Molly, says it's just genetics, like Torvin's cranial ridges. Miles is taken aback at the name of the girl, and Yedrin says that the name was passed down through the O'Brien line. Worf asks if they ever tried to send a distress call. However, being 200 years in the past, the Bajoran wormhole undiscovered, and in the Gamma Quadrant, it was never done. Lisa then says that their ancestors decided to make the planet their new home, naming it Gaia. Molly gets into the story saying that their ancestors needed to build a shelter quickly before winter came. The structure they were in was built, and all 84 crewmen had to sleep in it. Cisco seizes on the number and confronts Yedrin. Yedrin explains the energy discharge that struck Kira damaged her neural pathways. The Defiant doesn't have advanced enough medical equipment that Bashir needs to repair the damage, and therefore Kira died a few weeks after the crash. Randall tells the girls to leave, to spare them from an adult conversation. It sends them to their parents' help with the planting. Cisco states that they need to get Kira back to the station as soon as the Defiant is repaired. Yedrin agrees. Worf says that if they escape from the planet, the inhabitants' time will collapse and everything will cease to exist. Yedrin, however, says that he has a plan. The key was Kira. The energy discharge caused a subspace doubling effect. He says for an instant, every molecule in Kira's body had a corresponding quantum duplicate. If certain modifications to the Defiant systems are made, they can amplify the doubling effect and duplicate the entire ship. One ship will be sent back in time and one will pass through the barrier unaffected. The logs he retrieved, Yedrin says that the Defiant encountered a temporal anomaly 39 hours after arriving in orbit. Yedrin says that there are 8,000 people on the planet and this planet is their only choice. Cisco orders Jadzia to evaluate the plan and, if it is sound, begin the modifications. Yedrin thanks Cisco, to which Cisco replies, Cisco says, "Anything for you, old man." Back aboard the Defiant, Kira's resting in a bio bed in sick bay while Bashir is scanning a vat containing Odo. He puts Odo into a stasis device, telling Kira that because of the quantum fluctuations of the barrier, Odo can't hold its shape. Bashir says that Odo will be fine, but Kira needs to undergo a complete neural pathway induction when they get back to the station. Kira says that she feels fine. As he turns to leave, he asks where he is going. Bashir says that he wants to go down to the planet and meet his descendants. Kira looks at the stasis device, and turns when the door is open to meet a person who looks like Odo. He is dressed like the colonists and his facial features are more defined, but it is Odo, 200 years older than the one sitting in the device. Odo explains that he learned to counter the barrier's effects and that he has gotten better at shape-shifting over the years. Odo then says that she is as beautiful as he remembered. Kira is somewhat shocked by this, is even more shocked when Odo says that he loves her and has always loved her. Aww. Kira begins questioning Odo about this revelation, saying that she never knew. Odo did everything he could to make sure she didn't find out. Kira began saying how hard it must have been for him every time she came to him for advice about Borelli and Shakar. Odo says that he wanted to be a good friend. He has been waiting 200 years to say this. All he wants is for Kira to spend some time with him on Gaia. Back on the planet, Cisco meets some of his descendants, holding a baby. Miranda says that the child has Cisco's eyes. Jadzia calls Cisco with good news. She's gone over the sensor logs and Yedrin's plan will work. Cisco then holds the baby over his head and talks to her. Everything's going to be all right. Nearby, Worf is inspecting the town as Bashir walks up to him. Worf is making a survey of the settlement's infrastructure at the captain's request so that they can leave behind supplies. Bashir says that he was doing the same with the clinic. Bashir appears overly pleased with himself. His one of his descendants, his great-great-great-great-granddaughter, the doctor of the settlement. Suddenly, Gabriel comes running up to them, shouting that they're here! The Klingons have arrived. 3 people are standing in the street, holding spears and wearing knives. 2 of the Klingons appear human, while the other only has feigned forehead ridges. Frederick reads Worf and states that they are the sons of Mog. They are Worf's descendants, some by blood and some by choice. They live as warriors. Gabriel says that he wants to become a son of Mog, to which Perel says that when he is older, he can prove himself and take a Klingon name. Frederick says that the sons of Mog are gathering to celebrate Worf's return. Worf honors them by saying he will feast with them, and when they return to fetch him for the evening celebration. In engineering, Jadzia and Yedrin are working on modifying the Defiant systems. Yedrin smiles as Jadzia adjusts her hair, remembering that the summer after the crash, Jadzia cut it short and that Worf hated it. Yedrin then remembers promising to grow back for the wedding, which Sisko performed. As they talk about the wedding, Jadzia asks if they were happy. Yedrin says that Worf is a good man, and in time she will learn to handle him. Back on Gaia, Miles is installing a new pump for the town as well as Bashir stands talking with him. People from the Defiant are talking with their descendants, which disturbs him. Bashir is going about his descendants and says that he ends up with Ensign Angie Kirby, a new crewman who just transferred aboard. Bashir then begins to talk about Miles' Rita Tannenbaum. Miles runs at Bashir and says that he doesn't want to talk about it. I have a wife and kids back home. Saying this touch on a sensitive subject, Bashir leaves Miles to his work, while Lisa and Molly look and laugh at him nearby. Elsewhere on Gaia, Kira's praying over her own grave while Odo looks on. As Kira finishes, she comments, "Praying over your own grave, that's gotta be a new one." Odo says that if the prophets were listening, they might be confused. Kira then talks about Yidrin's plan, saying that it is a little strange. She has always believed that people have one path to follow, and now they're using technology to circumvent that. Odo says that he is in favor of the plan. Kira would get her treatment and the Gaia's timeline would get preserved. He then goes on to say that even though the plan won't change anything for him, the other one, the Defiant, won't have to lose her. Kira is touched by this. He helps her up and they walk off from the grave, hand in hand. Back at the settlement, Sisko and some children are tossing a baseball around. Jadzia walks up with the pad and doesn't look happy. She presents evidence to Sisko that Yedrin faked the log so that the crew would think that this plan would work. There was never going to be a duplicate Defiant, just one. If Jadzia hadn't figured it out, they would have been stranded and Kira would have died. At the meeting hall, Sisko and Jadzia have confronted Yedrin. Jadzia accuses Yedrin of betraying them. Yedrin asks what they will do. When Sisko tells them, Yedrin pleads with him, saying that if the Defiant doesn't go back in time, 8,000 people will simply cease to exist. Sisko explains that he can't deliberately maroon his crew. Yedrin tells Sisko to look around, see all the things that his crew their descendants will build. Jadzia asks about Kira, to which Yedrin asks if one life is too much to ask if it will mean saving 8,000. Sisko explodes at Yedrin, demanding to know how he can make that decision. Yedrin replies saying that he is responsible, and looks to Jadzia. She was the one that insisted that the Defiant investigate the planet. She knew that she should have been more careful, but she wanted to make a huge discovery, and that because of that, the Defiant was sent to the past, Kira died, and 48 people were stranded. Yedrin tells of guilt that has been passed down through Dax. He says that the community is his responsibility, and that for 2 centuries he has watched it grow. Sisko is moved by Yedrin's plight, but says that his people have a right to go home to their families and no one has the right to ask anyone to die. Later that night, Worf and Kira are sitting near a fire pit. They both don't like what's going to happen. Although the colonists are milling around, the mood is somber. Only the children seem unaffected. Kira comments that everyone's going to die because she had to get treated for something she can't even tell she has. Worf tells her not to blame herself, and Kira moves off to return to the Defiant. Nearby, Miranda is tending to some plantlings and seedlings. Gabriel mentions that everyone was quiet and asks what is wrong. Miranda tells him that it's nothing to worry about, not able to tell him the truth. As Gabriel leaves, the Klingons approach Worf and tell him that there will be no feast. Worf asks them to join him at the fire. He tells them of the honor to know that his legacy has thrived. Porter tells of a beast that he killed with Worf's son Mikleth. Then they tell him that their ceasing to exist will not earn them a place in Sto-vo-kor. They'll then unsheath their daggers and ask Worf to kill them. Worf hesitates, but then tells them that he will not then tells them that he will do what they ask tomorrow. Kira is back at her grave. Odo finds her and asks her why she came back. She won't be sure that this was where she belonged. As she looks at him, he says that the path the prophets have laid out for her ends on Gaia. Odo protests, but Kira stops him. She can't let the captain go through with his plan if that means 8,000 people cease to exist, even if she has to. Setsuko, Jadzia, Worf, Bashir, and Miles are sitting in the Defiance mess hall, hearing what Kira said. Bashir reminds her that she doesn't go back to the station for treatment soon, she will die. Kira says that she has accepted this, and if they don't take the Divine back in time, they will be cheating fate. Miles dismisses this, saying his wife and children are back in the station who need him. Kira says that the prophets will take care of them, but Miles responds with all due respect to Bajoran beliefs. He doesn't believe in them. Worf then comments that their families will survive either way, but the colonists will not. He says that if Kira is willing to sacrifice her life, he'd be willing to remain on Gaia. Miles still refuses to consider staying and tells Worf that it would be easy for him. He never sees his son. Worf bristles and he tells Miles that he is afraid to face his destiny. As Miles continues to get exasperated, he turns to Jadzia, Bashir, and Sisko. He tells them that no one has the right to tell him that he can't go home to his family. When Sisko says that he is hearing what everyone has to say, Miles asks if they're actually considering going back in time. Sisko seems unsettled by the arguments, but finally turns to Kira to say that they are not. Kira protests. Sisko is adamant as he dismisses them. Jadzia and Worf are walking through the settlement on Gaia. They contemplate what they are going to do. They come upon Sisko, who is getting one last look around. Suddenly, Gabriel comes running around the corner, almost hitting Sisko. When asked where he is going, Gabriel tells him he is going to the fields for the planting. As the three Starfleet officers surround the next corner, they see several cones getting ready to go to the fields. Hydra sees them and says that planting day was always important. Out in the fields, the colonists and most of the Defiance crew are working at the various tasks of farming, plowing, fertilizing, planting, and watering. Miles walks up, not doing any of the work, to give Sisko a status report. He says that the Defiant is ready to leave orbit. Molly, who was nearby, asks Miles if he is going to help. Miles says he is busy, to which Molly says that he doesn't look busy. Sisko asks Miles a farming tool and tells him to get to work. People around then notice that Worf is leading some of the Klingons towards them. Pearl and Brota say that they do not see an enemy to fight, as Worf had told them. Worf says that they are trying to plant their fields before the sun sets and that time is their enemy. The Klingons exchange a look and realize that Worf is offering them a challenge. The Klingons then join the colonists in their toil. As Miles is working, he tells Molly that he's a little girl with the same name. When Molly asks if she can meet her, Miles looks sad knowing it can never happen. Moved by Molly, Miles goes to find Sisko and Kira. Miles tells them that they can't leave. They can't let all these people die. Sisko nods in agreement after a moment while Kira smiles sadly. After their labors in the field, Sisko and Jadzia have told Yedred and Miranda about their decision. Yedred hands Jadzia a pad which contains the navigational logs from the original crash. All Jadzia has to do is download them into the ship's autopilot and to send the Defiant back to the right point in time. On the Defiant, Odo is saying goodbye to Kira. Odo is trying to talk Kira out of her decision. He says that her decision is based on her. It is about all of the colonists and their descendants. Odo asks about the descendants that won't be born if the Defiant doesn't return to DS9, but seeing he can't change her mind, asks that if Kira knew about his feelings years ago, she would do things differently. Kira says that it maybe would have. She kisses him and turns to leave. On the bridge, the crew is at their posts. Sisko asks if everyone has had a chance to record a message to their families. Everyone nods. Miles says that he has downloaded the recordings into a class 4 probe and will start transmitting a locating signal as soon as it clears the barrier. As the probe launches, Sisko orders helm control to be transferred to autopilot. The shields are raised as the Defiant breaks orbit. Scans show unusual temporal signature, the anomaly that will take them back in time. The seconds count down as the Defiant heads towards the impact when the satellite ship veers away. The autopilot can't be overridden and the ship clears the barrier, emerging in normal space of the planet and the barrier behind the ship. Miles consults his console and reports that someone changed their flight plan and that he didn't do it. Sisko orders a scan of the surface and Kira reports that there is no sign of the settlement or the inhabitants. Everything is gone. Cisco and Jazzy are walking down a corridor as they discuss what happened. Whoever changed the flight plan knew their way around the defined security systems. Jazzy says that it must have been one of the crew. Cisco then says it could be someone who used to be part of the crew. They'll say something suspecting Yidrin, but Jazia says all he cared about was the settlement. Cisco supposes that he could have changed his mind. Perhaps the Emperor Gamine was saying not to let them go through with the plan, Cisco says. When Jazia voices her lament that everyone they met never existed, Cisco corrects her, saying they existed, and as long as we remember them, they always will. An upset Kira is lying in bed in her quarters when the door chimes. Amongst Odo, who says that the other Odo came up to the ship and linked with him, knows everything that the other Odo has told Kira. She remarks on his reactions from earlier when she talked of Shakar. Odo comes to accept the fact that Kira was involved with someone else when suddenly all of that changed. Odo then tells her something else that the other Odo wanted her to know. He was responsible for changing the flight plan so that Kira didn't have to die. Kira is shocked with this, and Odo says that the other Odo did it because he loved her. When she asks if that makes it right, he replies that he doesn't know, but the other Odo thought so. Odo leaves her quarters as she considers everything that has happened. So anyway, let's take a look at some production notes from this episode. The planting scenes were filmed near Amundsen Ranch near Ventura, California. By the day of the shoot, there were gale force winds, and equipment trucks had to be used as wind blocks. It was so cold that the crew were wearing snow jackets, but the actors had to wear shirt sleeves because it was supposed to be a beautiful day. Between takes, the actors had to be sprayed down to make it look like they were sweating. This is the first episode of Star Trek to feature the use of a freestanding ladder. Paul Belagurian, sorry if I mispronounced that, composed the music for the episode. Referring to the score of the scene where the Defiant crew helped the guy in Stefarum, Belargian commented, quote, I did something where I did a whole cue where I got into a fugue type thing that's nearly a jig. That's a perfect example of something I'd never heard on a Star Trek show. So I tried and they said, hey, that's very nice. But that could have been a no-no. I didn't know what to expect. The worst thing that could happen is they tell me you're really going overboard and it sounds like an ancient fair. It's not medieval, but it's like Prokofiev stuff. A lot of flutes and a lot of violins, end quote. Now finally, let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. The stasis chamber into which Bashir places the present-day Odo in its liquid state for safekeeping is a simple 20th century bread maker, which has LEDs and other props attached to it. The Star Trek Enterprise episode E Squared bears a strong resemblance to this one. This is the last episode to feature the Gamma Quadrant until the series finale, What You Leave Behind. Yidrin Dax's tendency to speak with his hands behind his back recalls the episode Facets, which revealed that the habit was inherited from Leela, a previous host. Karl Lofton, who plays Jake Sisko, does not appear in this episode. This is the fourth and final DS9 episode to not feature any scenes based on Deep Space Nine, with the exception of the regular main credits. There's our past tense parts 1 and 2. There's our past tense part 1, past tense part 2, and Paradise Lost. This episode aired the same as Armin Sherman's first appearance on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, in which he continued as a recurring character for the next 2 seasons. Sherman said that on at least 3 occasions he worked on both shows on the same day, getting to the makeup chair before dawn to shoot a scene for DS9 in the morning, then getting out of makeup in the early afternoon and driving an hour across town to shoot scenes for Buffy late into the night. This episode presents a paradox. If Odo had been infected with the morphogenic virus previously, they could not have grown 200 years older on the surface of the planet. He would have died of the virus a few years later. However, it could be that the barrier somehow eliminated the virus, though ultimately it was never explained. It's possible that Odo was cured when he had his shape-shifting abilities taken away in Broken Link, and was then infected again in Behind the Lines, where he links with the female founder. That's interesting. That's something to think about. So far, I really do like this episode, and it is kind of sad what happened. It's kind of sad that the descendants are no longer there anymore, but yeah, so anyway. So overall, I give Children of Time 4 warp cores out of 5. Anyway, tune in bed till the next episode, Blaze of Glory. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.